Hey guys, it's Adrian Plus back to more to your day. This time we're gonna do it with a Falcons season review. This is one of my most self-anticipated videos of the kind of off-season era. Well, not really off-season, but end of the regular season era. I'm very excited to talk about the Falcons' entire season. So we're gonna start with a gaming record sum up, then move on to the top and bottom players of the Falcons season. Then we're going to move on to Arthur Smith's firing and coaching options. Then we're going to finish off with some off-season stuff, including the draft. That's the wrong thing. All right, here we go. ESPN is where we're going to find most of this stuff. So we're not going to go over the preseason much at all, but we are going to say that it was an odd preseason, to say the least, as you can see. Win, tie, loss. Got worse by the preseason. Moving on. Our first two games started really well. The Falcons, led by Bijan Robinson, beat the Packers and the Panthers, Panthers ended up being a very, very bad team. Packers ended up being a decent team that ended up somehow making the playoffs near the end. What was their record? No, like at the end of the season. Dude, come on. I should just go to standings. 9-8. They ended up with a winning record, so. Yeah, interesting win for the Falcons. The Packers were looking good at the start and then kind of fell off after they lost to the Falcons, but later cleaned up their game and ended up making it to the playoffs. So it was a pretty strong win looking back on it, even though it was only by 1 point. Falcons ended up making a comeback, which usually isn't what happens. Usually the Falcons are the team that came back on instead of the team that makes the comeback. But then they had a very disappointing next two games where they lose to the Lions and Jags, both by double digits, both not even putting up double-digit points. And that's when we realized that the Falcons may be frauds. But then moved to the Texans in the very hyped C.J. Stroud and his offense. Beat them by only 2 thanks to a game-winning field goal, I'm pretty sure. So that was pretty big. Falcons scoring 14 points in the fourth quarter. Then we learned, hey, this team is a pretty good fourth quarter team. And then we lose to the Commanders, who are at that time pretty bad and actually ended the season pretty poorly. I mean, we were down 24-10 hitting the fourth quarter. Our offense was clearly, from these first 6 games, not very good. We ended up taking the division lead with a big win over the Bucks by only 3. Once again, not putting up much points. But our defense over the course of these first few games has only allowed no more than 24 points, which is definitely one of the best in the league. But then we immediately had that record broken twice. First by the Titans, who beat us by 5. Then by the Vikings, who beat us by 8. Both using QBs in their debuts for that team. It was Will Levis's debut for the Titans, and it was not Kellen Mond. Joshua Dobbs' debut for the Vikings. They both ended up beating us. Once again, the Falcons' offense was pretty much non-existent for the Titans game until the fourth quarter. And for the Vikings game, they kind of came back on us. Well, it wasn't. Well, no, it was a tie. It looks like. But yeah, they scored a little bit more points than we did in the fourth quarter. And by this point, we were like, okay, this Falcons offense is inconsistent at best. Clearly, neither Heineke or Ritter were the answers. Robinson only getting 11 carries in this game. And then we move on to the Cardinals, one of the worst teams in the league, and then lose to the Arizona Cardinals in Kyler Murray's first game. So, 3 QBs debut for their team that season, and they beat us all in a row. Our offense was great for 1 quarter. Rest of it couldn't even put up a touchdown. And we lose another game. Heineke only threw it 15 times. They actually gave Robinson carries, and whoop-de-doo, it actually worked. We could not stop Trey McBride, which was a huge issue. But I don't really think our linebacker or safety coverage was really big of a problem for us this season. But then we get a little bit more hope as we defeat the Saints by 9. So that was definitely our biggest win of the season by this point. Jesse Bates got a huge pick 6. Ritter didn't play well, but Robinson and London certainly did. That was a very big win to get us up to 5-6. Then we're up to 500 as we beat the Jets in one of the nastiest wins I've ever seen in Falcons history. I mean, we crushed the Jets defensively, but offensively we didn't really do too good either. No points in the fourth quarter for us, and for either team, and no points in the first quarter for us. No offensive points in the first or fourth quarters of these games. Just, it shows our defense is amazing and our offense is terrible. But what happens when your defense doesn't play well? This 29-25. the Bucks beat us thanks to a game-winning touchdown near the end. In this game specifically, I'm pretty sure London was amazing. Yeah, 172 yards. Where is Bijan Robinson? Just checking out this myself. Checking this out myself. Only 10 carries. Only 3.4 yards per carry. Yeah, the Falcons just don't like giving Bijan carries. And things that Alger is really good, but maybe the reason why we should have drafted someone else. And then we lose another game, pretty much draining all hope for this team as we lose to the second 2-win team of the season at the time, the Carolina Panthers. Well, technically 2-win losing record, so Cardinals and the Panthers. Offense completely shut down. We could not get anything going. The Panthers didn't even play that well, but Hubbard did really nice. Bryce Young was a game manager, and we could not put up yards. 200 total yards, which is 50 yards per quarter. 2 turnovers. A terrible game. The worst of the season by far. But then we come back and blow out the Colts. This Falcons team is super weird. Heineke had an amazing game. Robinson still didn't get much carries, but when he did, he got a ton of yards. He got 7 receptions for 50 yards, so a lot of total yards, 122. And we made Minshew throw forced passes that he didn't really want to. That's what our defense was. And honestly, besides the Bucks game, for a while we've been holding teams pretty low points. Saints 15, Jets 8, Panthers 9, and Colts 10. And then we had some hope, and then the Bears beat us by 20. Yeah, I don't really know. We allow a ton of points. Our offense, of course, can't get anything going. Heineke throws 3 interceptions. Robinson actually gets carries and does well, and our leading receiver only had 1 catch. And then we have a very small chance of making the playoffs. And then we get blown out even worse by the Saints, who ran up the score. So, yeah. We scored 14 points in the first quarter, scored 3 for the rest of the game, while the Saints put up double-digit points in each of the last 3 quarters. Just a abomination of a game, honestly. Robinson only had his 11 carries because, of course, he did. But he actually did have over 100 yards receiving for the first time in his career. Kendra Miller did really well against us. Derek Carr looked like the MVP. Of course, we had that terrible interception. And that's how our season ended, allowing the Saints to get over 400 yards. We went 7-10 for the 3rd time in a row with Arthur Smith as the coach. Once again, missing the playoffs in the last week of the season. That's literally happens every time. We just have a small chance, and then even if we had a chance, it goes away because we immediately get blown out in a game that we really shouldn't be losing by this much. Saints actually ended up missing the playoffs, though, at 9-8, so it sucks to be them. But, yeah, clearly something needed to change if we wanted to win games. And would we make that change? Yes, we would, but that's not what we're going to talk about yet. Next, we're going to go through something actually more positive, our top players of the season. And there's probably a few I want to talk about. First, Bijan Robinson, an absolutely amazing season. He was 15th in carries, but only 15th in yards, but only 19th in carries. If he got a top 10 carries in the league, you know for a fact he's getting over 1,200 yards. Didn't get many touchdowns, but had an amazing average of over 4.5, which is great running back status. Tied 120. Oh, it's because there's a lot of players who got 1 or 2 carries and had really good averages. But, yeah. Bijan had an amazing game. He had some off games, some really good games. Last 5, he ended up not doing so well, only averaging for 3.7 yards per carry. But early in the season especially, he really showed out, averaging 5 and 6 yards respectively against the Bears and Colts. This was that Panthers game that really messed him up. Which, honestly... Oh, he had a fumbling problem as well. It wasn't as apparent as Drake London's, where he was single-handedly losing us games with his fumbles. But he did have 4, which is a ton for a running back. He won no more than 2 a season. But he's a rookie. That's something that you can easily clean up. We saw Drake London clean up his fumbles this season. Overall, Bijan Robinson had an A- season, in my opinion. Next, I want to call out Drake London. He had an amazing season last year. Somehow improved on it, nearing 1,000 yards, 905 off 110 targets, caught 69 of them, which isn't a crazy great ratio, but it's pretty good. 2 touchdowns, but we never really target our tall, big receivers in the end zone because we're the Atlanta Falcons. London had some amazing games, including the one where he put up 172 in a loss against the Bucks. but he kind of struggled to catch his targets in the last two games. Caught 4 of his 10 and 4 of his 9 against the Bears and Saints. And then for some reason, the Panthers and Colts games, he didn't even hit 5 targets. Just inconsistent game plans is what led to London going under 1,000 yards this season. But I still will say it was an amazing season for him. It just proves that he was a really underrated draft pick at the time. And that, well, he still has a lot more to show us. He's nowhere near his prime, only 22 years old to this point, and when the next season starts, he will be like 23. So he still has a lot of opportunities to hit 1,000 yards. I think I don't know if he will yet. Next season we'll have to see what our coaching and QB situations are. But I'm sure he'll be catching more of his targets, hopefully getting more targets, and hopefully scoring the end zone more. I'll give London actually an A season. I know his technically had less yards than Bijan. I feel like he was more efficient in games that he was getting a lot of targets in than Bijan Robinson was. Now, I'm going to go quickly on Nathan Landman and Caden Ellis. I don't think they're really huge improvements, but they were really good at linebacker. I want to shout out to them. None of them made the Pro Bowl, but I think both of them were a definite improvement of our linebackers last season. But the last player I have to call out for having an amazing season was, of course, where is he? How did I miss Jesse Bates? Here he is. He went to a Pro Bowl, and he was like a first-team All-Pro. 9 total turnovers caused by Jesse Bates, including 11 passes defense. He was 3rd in interceptions, tied 11 forced fumbles, 9th in solo tackles. Jesse Bates had an insane season. 132 total tackles, 3 forced fumbles, 6 interceptions, a pick 6 included in that, and 11 passes defense. That is insane. That might be one of the best Falcons defensive performances in the season of all time. He had a pick 6 against the Saints, pick against the Colts recently. So he never was bad for a few games. If he was bad, not bad, but like not making plays, was only for 1 or 2 games, and he immediately remind you why he's probably the best safety in the league. And I'm not even over exaggerating. An amazing season for Jesse Bates. He had an interception once in his last 5 games, which is really good considering that he had 3 in his first 3 games. But yeah, amazing season for him. There's not many lowlights besides the QB situation. Ritter and Heineke were both extremely disappointing. Ritter had the same amount of touchdowns and interceptions. Horrible QB rating. Just terrible. Not much to say about him. He was just absolutely irredeemable. Hopefully this is his last season as a Falcon. I say Heineke was just more inconsistent than bad. Like, Ritter was consistently bad. Heineke was just inconsistent. So I will say that Heineke... Oh, yeah, she basically gets an A+ season, by the way, for his rating. Ritter gets an F, and I give Heineke like a D+ or a C-. I think that's pretty much it for bad performances, though. Oh, no, it's not, because Van Jefferson was absolutely garbage in my opinion. Especially early on. Caught less than half of his targets for only 10 yards per attempt, I think. Per catch, and no touchdowns. With a long of what? Is that 4 yards? No, it's not. As long as it's 4 yards. Oh, that's rushing. He had a long of 46. If you go down from that, he probably had like a 21 or so. Just a terrible season. He gets a F+, I'll say. Really bad. I'm very disappointed in that trade. But, what do we got next? We've got the Arthur Smith firing. This is going to be a while. But, let's see if we can find it in the news or something. So we can have something to look at. Yeah, here he is. Arthur Smith is done. Finally, he is fired after 3 7-10 seasons, ending his record as a head coach of the Falcons as 21-30, which honestly isn't terrible, but no playoff appearances is just in 3 seasons with this talent. You saw how many players I called out for being great, and yet the 2 offensive players that did great had multiple games where they wouldn't touch the ball more than 5 times. London you saw multiple times he got targeted for less than 5, and then Gabriel Robinson had less than 10 carries. That's Arthur Smith's fault. He had to go. Now, I'm completely in favor of this. I don't know who we're going to sign next. We're going to talk about that in a second. But for now, I'm very happy with the Arthur Smith firing. I do also want to mention Darvin Ham. I don't really think he should go yet. I think we should, because he's the reason that we have Jesse Bates, Calais Campbell, who both had great seasons, and then he's also the one who drafted Bijan, London, and Pitts, who are three of the best offensive weapons in the league. Like, Pitts is a top 10 tight end, London's a top probably 20 receiver, I say. I don't think that's crazy. And Robinson's a top 10 running back. So, like, yeah, he's been doing great drafting. I just think he's a coach that more uses his talent better. For rumors, Bill Belichick has been leading most likely, but I don't even know if he's going to lead the Patriots. He clearly doesn't want to. I would personally like Pete Carroll, but I think he might just stay with the Seahawks. So the three people, and it's him, it's these two, and Jim Harbaugh for only coaches that really sound like they have a chance of going to the Falcons, or at least obvious answers. I would love literally any of these three. I'd probably prefer Jim Harbaugh out of the three, or Pete Carroll. I don't really know about Bill Belichick, because his coaching may be out, like, what's his name? Like, too old school for our fresh new Falcons offense, and also he's been really, really bad with Mac Jones. If we end up drafting a rookie QB, I don't want him ruining him, trying to Tom Brady him. But his segment's not going to be as long as the others. Those are just my thoughts on Arthur Smith and who he may potentially sign. Would love Jim Harbaugh. That's probably, like, if we could get Jim Harbaugh, I'll be very, very happy. But, yeah. And finally, we've got draft options and the future. Let's see if we can get some, draft. And that's at ESPN Plus. But still, we can still look at it. As you see, I don't know who the offensive lineman is. Was that other guy? What's his name? I just can't remember that edge rusher's name. But Jason McCarthy, is that my league number? There's like a single-digit number. I don't know, whatever. And Kool-Aid McKinstry. I will say there's only 3 positions that the Falcons should even think about drafting in the first round. There's QB, which there's a chance that Jay Daniels falls to us, and we might trade up, but I don't really see us doing that. Even though we will have a new head coach who might be more aggressive in the draft than our coaches are, than like Dan Quinn and Arthur Smith were. So yeah, that's one option. Our next option is my personal favorite, edge rusher. I love the edge rushers in this class. You've got Dallas Turner, Chop Robinson, Jarrett Verse, and Laitu Latu. All deserve to be top 15. And I feel like they'll be picked really early in last year's draft class, because last year it was literally Will Anderson and everybody else in the edge rushing class. But I feel like all of those guys may have had a chance to go top 15. They won't all go top 15 this year, most likely, because there's just so much talent in this draft. And I just can't. I would literally be happy with the Falcons drafting any of those 4. I would be most happy with probably Dallas Turner, though. Especially because in my latest mock draft, which you should check out, he fell to our position. And I will give a small shout out to offensive tackle. Really good tackle class, but I don't really think that's what the Falcons should target. And finally, cornerback. Now, I'm telling you, if Terrion Arnold and Kool-Aid McKinstry are there, the Falcons have a chance of drafting them. You know they love the Alabama players. I just don't think corner's the way to go. And I do agree that our corners were not very good. Clark Phillips had some, he had some flashes, but he was not good. I don't know what happened to D. Alford. He pretty much disappeared, and Terrell continues to get beat by A.T. Perry. So, quarterback is definitely a possibility, but I would prefer it in the later rounds. But in the future, in general, I expect this offense to take a huge step up. Defense may take a step down since players, especially on the defensive line, like Onyemata, Jarrett, and Campbell are all getting older. So, you might see a smaller step down from the defense. But even though they used to say defense wins championships, if those are a number 1 ranked offense and a number 20 ranked defense versus a number 1 ranked defense and a number 20 ranked offense in the Super Bowl, the number 1 ranked offense is going to win that game 90% of the time. Like we saw in the Eagles-Chiefs. The Eagles had way better offense than the Eagles, in my opinion, but the Eagles had a tougher defense. Chiefs still won. In the 49ers-Chiefs game, 49ers had better defense than the Chiefs. Chiefs had better offense. Chiefs won. One anomaly though was the Chiefs losing to the Bucs, and that was more of a defensive Bucs team. But most of the time, offense matters more than defense in this new NFL. And with these young talents, none of them are even 25 yet in Pitts, London, and Robinson. We still have a long road ahead of us. I feel like if we can start getting a coach that can at least get us to the playoffs, wild card every season, and keep those players willing to stay with us, that is a great sign for the future. But I hope you guys kind of enjoyed this in-depth Falcons season review. Hope you guys are excited for next season and the draft, because I really am. Expect more mock drafts and the like, and see you guys later. Adios.